Hi.
Hello. Oh, I'm like extreme close-up mode here. Hold on. Good Lord. It's like Wayne's World moment.
Right?
Yeah. Extreme close-up. So funny. Um, it's funny. I was watching one of Brene Brown's videos the other day,
Uh-huh.
and like one of her lives, and somebody like in the comments was like, "You need to move your camera up." Like, because she had her face down here, and all the comments were like going over her face. But I was like, that's pretty ballsy to tell Brene Brown what,
Right. Like, way to direct Brene Brown.
like, I'm equally impressed and like, hey, maybe you should like CTFD on that one. Like, now, like, pretty sure Brene will be okay one way or the other.
Right.
So, oh my goodness. Holy cow. The
Wonderful.
sun, there's so many clouds over here. Like, the sun keeps going in and out of the clouds.
Yeah.
So, if I could actually get to the couch instead of like being in the office like I have been all day long.
I'm actually envious. So, the way that we're handling being able to get things done in our house right now is to split our week. So, and split the boys apart. So, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, the boys are split. I have Tyler, my youngest, upstairs, and then Cameron, my eldest, is downstairs with my husband, so he can like have the run of the house. I don't have to control my year and a half old, or year and a half. So, and I've been hanging out in my bedroom all day, and I'm getting super tired of hanging out in my bedroom. I kind of miss my office. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, you can have mine anytime you'd like. Virtually though, we're
Virtually, I can't actually step foot in your office.
yeah, please don't. Please don't right now. Oh my
So,
gosh.
how is your week going? How is this is basically like major week 2 of coronavirus lockdown, shutdown mode. Oh, so you're drinking because of that. Hi, Aubrey. Um, so
Wait
how's
before I answer that. I'm just kidding. It's going well. I expected this week to be more of the same, and it was not the same. It was actually pretty different than last week.
how so?
I think I am depleted a little bit more than I was last where I think last week it was like we can do this and it's week 1 and like everything's crazy and we talked last week about like holy cow, how do we kind of manage our emotions and how do we deal with this? And then this week I expected to be more, I don't know, on target for what I was expecting of myself, where I thought I would have kind of a pattern down, maybe not a routine, but a pattern and like I think I'm wanting some sense of normalcy, and it's like just not happening.
Yeah.
And that's been challenging and that was unexpected. So a good week, however, a little more challenging in some of those ways, and it's highlighted some stuff I need to work on for myself, but also for my family. So, how was your week?
It was better. There have been all these articles about how we need to emotionally grieve whatever it was that we're looking forward to, right? And I was like, wow, yeah, that's really impactful. And then I realized I wasn't doing that. If anybody who's been following me knows that I have a youngster, and last week was really my finish line with having him home and being able to get back into my routine and my patterns. And what you're talking about is like getting back to normal for me. Like, I was already in a state of a bit of disarray. And so I was really looking forward to being like, okay, like now things are going to settle. And it was a finish line that I didn't get to cross. And I didn't acknowledge that until much later. And I went through the grieving process of saying like, well, crap, we're not there yet. Like, it's not going to happen. Right. And had to kind of downshift into a familiar operating system that I've been in for, while being pregnant and then having a newborn. But thinking about it differently because now everybody's in my space and my husband's in my space. So it's been a lot of powerful communication between my spouse and myself, making sure that we're both getting things done, that we're sharing the burden of having the boys home, and being able to express our stress in a healthy way to each other rather than blowing up because we both feel stressed and we feel like the other person's not doing enough and we're not getting enough done because we're super protective of the things we're invested in. And so we've had some really good productive conversations around that because we acknowledged it up front, like this is going to suck. Like that's just, this is like, as much as we love our children and our spouses and what have you, like this is just going to suck because this may not have been the life that we all designed for ourselves, right? Like I can't even tell you that the number of times when I was under a lot of stress, I said to my husband, like, I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Like,
Yeah, kudos to you for just saying that out loud.
like it's
I,
just like this is not the life that I had envisioned for myself, and that's okay. That doesn't mean I don't love my children. It doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying. There is silver lining to having them home. They're super fun and I enjoy them being around. But man, like this is not the life that I was designing for myself. And so it feels super uncomfortable and it feels extra stressful.
yeah, I like how you acknowledged it's just gonna suck. You know what I mean? Like, and I might amend that, and I think you might too. Of parts of this are just
Yes,
going to suck.
just going to suck.
Right now, and when you bump into it, like, I would love to create a catchphrase for like, ooh, there's the suck. Like, you know what I mean? So when you bump into it at home, that there's like a framework you can apply for it of like, hey, whoa, we're stepping into something that's just crappy, rather than expecting us to be different or, the other adult human in our home to be different, if
Right.
there is one.
You should just go like hashtag eggplant emoji.
Yeah.
Because then your child won't know what you mean. Because like that's the other thing too. The last thing we need is toddlers running around going suck, 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 suck.
Mhm.
So
Oh, my toddler's running around saying definitely worse than that right now. I was like, "Ooh, perhaps this is an opportunity to work on mommy's swearing habit." Like, let me reframe this into an opportunity to work on that.
thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, hashtag eggplant emoji.
There you go. Yeah, Elizabeth, make that a thing. We appreciate that.
uh,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna ask you, how so you said you were tied to your office today, so let's talk about like the productivity paradox. Do you want to introduce everyone to that? What does that mean, and how
Yeah.
is it showing up in your world right now?
Um, so also hashtag eggplant emoji. So the productivity paradox, when Jen and I were talking earlier this week about, just checking in what's going on in our businesses, what do we want to talk about from our couches or wannabe couches this week, we were talking about this prevailing sense of, holy cow, I'm working remotely, I'm at home all the time now, and I should be producing more. So, my example was, there's a project that's literally been on my like home project list for 4 years that I feel like by now I should have completed in the 2 weeks of staying home that we've been doing. At the same time, I'm trying to actually produce my normal workload, what I would do in a time when I don't have my husband all day long and I don't have my, almost 2 year old all day long, or the dog coming in, or whatever it is. And this paradox of feeling like we should have so much more time, or that we should have even an equivalent amount of time,
Yeah.
and need to or want to produce at those levels, the same level or this perceived higher level that we should be at. Well, what's actually happening for a lot of us is capacity has diminished.
Yeah.
I know my mental capacity for what I can create, build, do, manage is diminished because it's simply going elsewhere. And having a kid at home, or even having another human in the house alone, or a needy pet, or whatever it is, the Roomba interrupting you if you have one of those. Um, that's hitting our capacity too. And so when we were talking about this, like this paradox of I feel like I should be doing so much more, and yet I feel like I'm actually producing so much less.
Yes.
So that's what we wanted to tackle today. So I went through my daily, in my preference for routine and predictability, I went through what I would normally have in a work day,
Mhm.
typical work day, amount of time to work, even kind of minus, being in transit to places or calls or interruptions, whatever. And I gauged it at usual to be about 8.5 hours a day.
Okay.
So that includes being up a couple hours before the little one gets up. That includes, handling phone calls while I'm driving, that kind of stuff. Um, I estimate right now my available time, if I look only at that same time frame, is about 3.5 to 4.5 hours. Simply because of changed demands on my time and attention. My partner Sean, he's here. He's working online, teaching online. He's a high school teacher. And so, he's got a job to do also, which means I've got a kid to watch, or, I've got lunch to make, or things to handle. So that was really helpful of just to look at, oh, wow, this did actually change.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in the same environment plus two humans that I was, 3 weeks ago. So that was helpful to me.
Yeah. First, I want to acknowledge Elizabeth. Unfortunately, we can't make the humans go away. Everyone's unfortunately practicing social distancing. And unfortunately, my toddler hasn't gotten the memo.
Yeah,
So,
mine neither. Mine neither.
um, it's interesting that you say that. And, actually sitting down and realistically calculating what can you do, right? The lie that I told myself was like, okay, my husband's going to be in my space, my kids are home, so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to shift my hours, right? Like, okay, like as if my kid only needs me from 10 a.m. to 2, right? Like that's not true. So the lie that and the struggle that I went through was I was like, okay, well, I can work before the kid wakes up, and then, all hell will break loose, and I'll work during nap time, and then all hell will break loose again. And then at some point, he's going to wear himself out, and we're going to go to bed, and then I'll work then. And what ended up happening, as Nicole's sitting there shaking her head like, that sounds like a nightmare, right? Um, is,
No, it sounds like exactly what I tried. I'll show you my printed schedule that's behind
oh,
me.
you printed a schedule. That's very bold of you.
I
Um,
did.
oh, no, I can't talk about my husband anymore. He just signed on. Um,
Hashtag Team Hank, you're doing great.
Hashtag Team Hank, you're killing it. But what the reality was is that I couldn't adjust that time. That's not realistic, right? Because where's the energy coming from? As we're in this space of handling the toddlers and handling whatever's going on in the house and whatever other projects you decide to take on, right? Like you're like, okay, well, I'm not getting anything like real work done, stuff that takes my brain, so I'm gonna go do the laundry, right? Like you're still expelling a bunch of energy. And so that's not realistic to adjust. And so I went through the same exercise where I was like, okay, first of all, there's no space in here for me. Like there's no like calm down space. And because I'm an introvert, I need that space. So where can I build that in? And then, okay, let's be realistic. Yeah, all hell's gonna break loose after the older one gets up. He's a toddler, he demands a lot of attention. And then it started going through, okay, like, then what do I need to get done? What is the minimum number of hours that I need to do that keeps my business going, keeps my clients happy, keeps business moving forward? Because right now, that's got to be my operating space, right? Is
Yeah,
you have to stay in a space where you're like, my goal is to keep the wheels on the bus. And that also means for my kids too. So like having this realistic, like, here's when I can actually focus, here's when I can actually work out, instead of trying to just like force myself into being a night owl. Like after 3 p.m., I'm actually pretty useless anyways. I want to make dinner, I want to watch Real Housewives, and I just want to like play on the floor with my kid. Like it's not, I
yeah,
don't want to figure out how to do social media mapping, and I don't want to coach people on productivity because quite frankly, I'm in a zone where I don't know why you're trying to get anything done. So it's
fair.
being super realistic about what time you actually have and how do you maximize however little or big that space is, as opposed to trying to reallocate it to times that it just simply doesn't make sense.
I love that. I wrote down, it was as we were getting ready to come online here, I was writing down a couple of things of, what are things that have been workable strategies for me through this. And the second one, the first one I wrote down was redefining successful,
Oh, yeah.
of like what is a successful day. Like what does success mean? So one, redefining that, because what it used to look like ain't what it looks like anymore, good and bad. And so kind of toning down some of my, like, I need to produce these 9 million things in one day to be successful.
Hmm.
Today's success was returning the 3 time sensitive emails that were in my inbox. There's other stuff to be done for sure. 3 were time sensitive, to your point of what needs to get done. And I got to take my 14-year-old dog on a walk, my dog is, dying right now. So it's like success to me was prioritizing time to take her out
Yeah.
and getting one-on-one time with my toddler.
Yeah.
So, I think redefining that success, and then what is truly necessary was the second thing I wrote down. And Aubrey, I love that your day doesn't have to be exhausting. Your
Right.
day doesn't have to be exhausting. And I think for a lot of us, we wear that as a badge of honor. How are you
Right.
doing? I'm totally drained. I'm worn out.
I'm so busy.
Mhm. That it becomes a badge of honor. And we're just different kind of busy right now. So I think redefining your success, and then asking yourself what is truly necessary.
Mhm.
The other thing, I did a coffee and connection broadcast this morning with one of my business partners, Eric Bailey, who I know we all collaborate. He's on as Eric_M_Bailey, if anybody wants to follow him. Pretty fun. But I learned this week that when we go through times of change or uncertainty, it activates the same sensors in our brain as our physical pain sensors.
Interesting.
So we don't feel it physically, like, ouch, that hurts.
Right.
But our bodies and our like neurological system actually behave the same way. And so to think of, if you were in a normal work environment, normal being whatever you were doing 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden introducing a very constant sense of pain, how that would change how you showed up at work.
Yeah.
And how would you respond to that, right? Like, so
Yeah.
you slip a disc, you sprain
Goodness.
your trachea. And
Yeah.
what would you do? You would do shit differently.
Yeah.
You wouldn't try and do it the same. And yet we're not acknowledging or even aware or willing to admit, which is where I've been, like, willing to, it's not different. It's just, different.
It's just different. It's not different. It's just different.
Yeah. And so that context really helped me of going like, okay, it's not the same as it was.
Right.
Even in that 2-hour window, the magical nap window, when she actually lasts that long, which is not every day, um, it's still not the same.
Right.
It's still not the same as it was 3 weeks ago. And so learning to approach work differently and approach ourselves and our emotional state differently, that's golden. That's golden,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's gosh, you said so many good things, because that's true, right? Like, we don't have this like physical reminder that things are different, right? Like, it's kind of like, you need to go take your pain pills because you start hurting, whereas like you don't know that it's time to slow down and relax and reset your expectations, because there's no reminder until you reach your emotional breaking point, and whatever that may be. Like, some people scream, some people yell, some people cry, some people just shut down emotionally and like walk out of the room, like whatever that emotional limit is at. You don't know it until you hit it. And so there's no other like warning sign reminders until you get there, right?
Right.
And so I like that you touched on redefining definition of success, because that's another thing that, as somebody who's a high producer, right, I have my list and I just kill it every day, right? That's just the way
You're the productivity
that's
expert.
it, that's what I do, right? And so like that's my default operating system, is how much can I get done in a day. That is my badge of honor, is not to be exhausted. It's almost like, how many tallies can I get done, right? And how do I get down to inbox zero, which I haven't been at, and it's been killing me a little bit until recently. And what I did, instead of setting my priorities for the day and I had my schedule and I was going to work through it, is I picked three priorities for the day, but they don't all fall under the business category. They don't all fall in the work category. So I have one business priority, one personal priority, so whether it's for me or for my household, and then I have one fun priority. So I'm creating a sense of balance, even though it's not all balanced, right? Like the work priority may be heavier one day, and then the fun priority may be heavier another day. But what I'm doing is making sure that I'm touching all of those zones of happiness and productivity without bogging myself down. So a great example of this is on Tuesday. I had to send out a bunch of emails for a client, and they were super time sensitive. So I had to get them done. But on that day too, I also wanted to work out. That was my personal priority. And then my third priority is, we had decided we wanted to try to get, actually I got this idea from you, Nicole. It was a beautiful day in Arizona. We wanted to give our eldest something to play with that had to do with water. He's a total water baby. He's been itching to get back in the pool. And so we don't have a water table, those like $70 setups, but what we do have is a bunch of buckets and a hose. So I was like, all right, the fun for today is I want to have my eldest Cameron outside playing with water. You know what? Maybe I'll work outside with him and we'll have some fun. And so that fun priority took up a ton of time, right? Like it's not easy to just be like, here's the hose, have fun, kid, right? So especially when he's 19 months old, that's not just something you just hand over. So
Right.
we had like set that up. And so I got all my emails done. And so I was like, check, cool, done. And then I was like, all right, it worked out first thing in the morning, check. It wasn't a great workout, but I moved. And then I was free to spend the rest of the day entertaining my child, who's at a stage where he's learning through play. And so at the end of the day, the rest of the day, there was chaos. There were emails coming in and out, but I had accomplished my three priorities of the day. And so I could walk away and say, today was successful.
Cool. Did that feel good?
It felt so good. My husband and I sat down at the end of the day, and we've been doing daily check-ins with each other. Like, how did today go? How is this feeling? Just to make sure that we're still in tune with each other. It's super easy to ignore your partner when chaos is going on with your kids, right? Like it's super easy to totally ignore that. And so I wanted to make sure he's still taken care of. He's making sure I'm still taken care of. And so we did a check-in. We're like, how did today go? And we're like, even though it felt like we played with water 3 days ago, because for some reason the days feel really long right now, it
Yep.
still felt good. It felt like we had found some sense of balance. Now, you know that I don't believe in balance. I believe in harmony, but that's the word we use. Is we felt like something was closer to a balancing state where it felt normal. It felt happy. It felt, it felt like we kind of found like a good groove for the day.
Yeah.
And so
I
I've
love
been following that pattern.
I love that. I love that idea of just kind of reframing how you're viewing like those days, or what are those expectations? What are we actually looking to get out of this? I've been saying these are the fastest, slowest days ever.
They
Right.
are.
God, I get to the end of it and I'm like, where the F did that go? Like I didn't get anything done, or but at the same time when you're in them, I'm like, good God, it's only 1 p.m. Like, will this ever end? Will it ever be 3 p.m. so I can join Jen?
Right.
But one of the things that I am playing with, so I'm a big fan of, well, let me back up. I'm a commitment phobe. So I get nervous about committing fully to almost anything. Plans, a definition of myself, a change, like whatever it is. And so one of the techniques I use to work with that is I allow myself to play. So I'm going to play with an idea. I'm going to try this on, which means it's not permanent, right?
That's
I
very
can just,
permissive. I really like that to say, like, I'm just going to play with this idea.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. So try it out. So one of the things I'm playing with is how I have defined myself and how I could define myself.
Interesting.
So, so to the extent of, I am a high producer. I'm a optimal producer. I get more shit done in one day than almost anybody else except for you that I know. You know what I mean? And that's been a core part of my identity. And the problem is that doesn't fit right now,
Yeah.
at least not in the traditional way that I've defined it. And so I am playing with the definition of I'm highly adaptable.
Ooh, I
And
am
like,
agile. Yeah.
how different does that feel? Because then when I print the schedule for the day and then it doesn't work that way, I'm like, well, that's okay because I'm highly adaptable. You know what I mean? Like, and with the toddler at home, we're in a Montessori school, and I love the Montessori environment. And I love the other parents I've met, but I also look at like the stuff they're putting out on Facebook, and I'm like, that is not what my household looks like right
Right.
you know, and so what part of that identity could I try on? And what part of it do I not need to try on or try to carry right now that's different than who I am? Because if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, would you be happy, I don't know, being the stay-at-home mom type? And I just texted somebody yesterday, I'm not made for this.
I'm not built for this.
But that's also a self-definition that I've been applying. And
Yes.
so maybe I could be really well suited to parts of this, to
Yeah.
parts of this. And I'm allowing myself to play and to lean into some of those places rather than feeling like I need to lean into all of the places all the time.
Right. Well, and so you made so many great points, and I have so many thoughts because the first thing that I said to Hank when we were putting together the like water bucket play area for Cameron is I said, my big stress has been, and we're very fortunate in Arizona. It is warming up. We're getting into the weather that if you live in Arizona, you actually do enjoy this. Don't lie about it. But we're getting into the warm part of the year, right?
Yep.
And I said to him, I was like, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful it's not raining. I'm grateful it's not cold because I really am a summertime mom. That is where my strength is.
Cool.
I am let's go play in water, let's play outside, let's make a mess and then hose ourselves off because that's fun. I'm a summertime mom. The cooped up inside the house and figuring out activities that are minimal mess with a toddler, and because I'm a very messy mom too. Like I fully believe that they could dive in and make a mess and we'll get some soap and you'll be fine, right? And so I'm not good with the containment momming. So I'm trying to focus on what are my strengths as a mom. I may not be a stay-at-home mom, but what are my strengths as a mom and how can I leverage those in this situation?
Okay, I want to come back to the messy mom thing. Keep going.
Okay. The other thing that I really liked is you playing with redefining yourself, right? We use all this like self-limiting language all the time. Like, I'm not built to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm not confident enough to go on video. I'm not built for this, whatever it may be that you are limiting yourself to. And the thing that I try to focus on right now is what is a different way to define myself during a day? So the question is 70%. Oh, I lost Nicole. I'm just going to keep going with this. So, what if today I could be 70% CEO, super productive mommy, and then the other 30%, I'm going to just be mom that uses cheat codes like microwave chicken nuggets. Okay, let's get Nicole back in here. Waiting for Nicole. Aubrey said, my youngest played with rocks and dirt for 15 minutes today while I answered emails. Did he eat any? Maybe. Hi, Nicole. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. Who knows?
I was just reading Aubrey's comment, which I love, that her youngest played with rocks and dirt today for 15 minutes while she answered emails. Did he eat any? Maybe. Like, but
Yes.
this actually fits really well with the point that I was just getting to, is that you can also redefine who you are today. So maybe today, like yesterday is a great example.
For
I
sure.
presented in a live online summit. So I needed to be more CEO productivity expert than mom. So I used my mom cheat codes, and we had microwave meals and we just did what we could do, right? Whereas on some days, I just need to be more mom than I need to be CEO and productivity expert. And so redefining who you need to be during the day, or even split it like half the day, like, hey, in the morning, I have a bunch of phone calls, so I need to be in my zone, and that's when I will be CEO mom. And then afterwards, I'm going to be mom CEO, right?
No, I like that.
So it kind of goes into not just limiting who you are and who you think you are overall, and redefining the terms that you use with yourself, which I really love that. I love the idea of acknowledging the self-talk that you're using and seeing what, if you change that language a little bit, how does it change the way you're approaching your day? But also making a commitment to yourself, saying, I only need to be on during this time, or today I'm going to do, a 60-40 split of who I'm going to be today.
I
um,
like I like that.
because we're so used to being like 100%, like, and you're told this in the work environment. When you're in the office, you leave your personal life at home. When you're here, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're home, you're like, I'm going to unplug from my phone and not answer my emails. I'm going to 100% be with my kids. You can't do that right now, because you are going to continue to get to the end of the day and be like, the hell just happened? I don't know who I am. Why are 3 people in my household not wearing pants? And did anything actually get done today? Right? Like, you're going to completely lose control.
Right. Right. You said something earlier about
Messy mom.
being the messy mom, and um, I love that that's like allowed in that category. And I kind of feel like, what if we're all just a little bit messy right now? What if that was just permitted, and dropping this desire for perfection, right? And perfection defined as whatever our personal expectations are of
Right.
ourselves,
Right.
perspective of looking at other people's stuff. I was listening to a podcast with Elizabeth Gilbert today, and it was one from a couple of years ago. But one of the things she said was, perfectionism is the haute couture of fear, and she said
Ooh,
it's just fear wearing better shoes. And
interesting.
what she meant, like when you and I were talking about being productive and like why we chose the productivity paradox of this idea that we say it's okay to be a perfectionist, or I'm a high producer, whatever those, whatever our self-inserted labels are. And instead thinking of that as like, is there a basis of fear in there? Like fear that I'll be seen differently, fear that someone will discover I'm not the, not messy mom, or, that they'll see that, I actually went and did a virtual with somebody, and I didn't realize I had like something that my daughter had left, like right here on my sleeve until like afterwards. My husband's like, well, that's nice. Like, we'll just get that off. Don't worry about it. And she's not a newborn, so God only knows what it was.
Right, like that.
But yeah, that idea of like, is that part of what's going on for us, of that fear of not showing up in a certain way based on an ideal that may or may not even apply to us. So
Right.
for me, there's been a lot of, as I kind of close the week, there's a lot of freedom in what I've experienced and kind of navigated, um, also. So my kind of last piece of what I wanted to share today was, from that same podcast. And Elizabeth Gilbert said, there's no species on the planet more anxious about change than the human species.
100%.
But there's also no species better able to adapt to it also. And she gave this, or no, it wasn't from the podcast. It's in her live video that came out today. And she said, in New York, you go out and people are standing 6 feet apart in the streets. and just on their phones, and it's not a big deal. That's just kind of like what life looks like. And she said, but if 2 weeks ago you would have told everybody, in
Right.
2 weeks you'll be standing outside, not interacting, not blah, 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 people would have lost their damn minds.
Right.
And she goes, but in the span of 2 weeks, like we adjust and we adapt. And so I think having that faith in wherever our productivity levels are at right now, that we can adapt, we can find new ways, and the printed schedule that works this week might need to change for next week or be thrown out altogether.
Right.
Um, or be more rigidly enforced because it could work, whatever that is. So I liked the hope of that ability to adapt to what's going on, especially in terms of productivity. That was very calming for me.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the other thing is I just did this presentation yesterday, and I'll leave with this thought too, that um I and most people who follow me know that my foundation for all productivity is that there is no best way to do something. There's only the best way for you. And so, this freedom to own how you're doing things and adapt it to, and again, that word adapt is coming up, adapt it to what works for you right now. And what doesn't work, what works today may not work tomorrow. You don't have to go week by week and say, okay, well, this is week one, this is what we're doing. Week two, this is what we're doing. Like, allow it to be fluid, allow yourself to revise and revisit things and see what works and what doesn't work. And my husband and I have developed a schedule where it's every other day. So we're not doing the same thing every day, right? So allow yourself that grace to change. You're not married to anything. Play with your schedule, as you said, Nicole, right? Like, it doesn't have to be super committal. And I think this is a really great time where you're going to learn a lot about yourself and how you prefer to work, how you prefer to operate, what you value. And that's kind of the silver lining of it all, right? We're under this really unwelcomed stress test. And so allow yourself to explore a little bit and push the boundaries. And my final thought that I've been ending everything with is, during this time where everything is super uncertain and we're questioning our futures and where everything is going and are we doing the right things, just remember that right now, for like the first time and probably the last time in all of our lives, we're all on the same playing field,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone is trying to figure out, everyone from like news anchors to millionaires. I mean, they have bigger houses, but all your subordinates, your immediate managers, anybody who's in your life, we're all on the same playing field. We're all trying to figure out how to continue to move life forward in as normal of a way as possible while trying to respect a health issue, and we're trying to all do it digitally.
Right.
Like, I don't care how rich you are. I've probably had to teach like four people who make way more money than me how to use Zoom this week. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? And so we're all in a similar area of struggle and discomfort. I have yet to speak to one person who said, you know what? This is going great.
Right.
So just remember that this discomfort is a universal connector. And so whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying, you're doing great.
Yep.
That's it.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Cheers to
Cheers
that.
to that. All right, Nicole, any parting thoughts on productivity paradox?
God, lower the bar. That's end period at the end of the sentence. Lower the bar
Lower the
to,
bar.
to whatever, like you said, to whatever needs to get done. Lower the bar and then celebrate meeting the low bar.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Not to like go on a tangent, but yes, celebrate. Celebrate the little wins, even if it's, hey, I didn't lose it on my kids today, or hey, I actually made all three meals. They were all chicken nuggets, but hey, I made three meals, right? And like,
Right.
even if you don't have kids and you're making chicken nuggets for yourself, like you did it, right?
Because they're
Um,
delicious.
and they're delicious and they pair well with wine. But yeah, no, I think that's great. It's to lower that bar and remember that you can give 100%, but respect what your 100% is today.
Amen.
You can just do your best and don't compare it from day to day.
I love it. I love it.
Cool.
Hey, thanks for the chat. Nice to see you and connect.
Yeah, it's so nice to be together but apart during
Together
this
but apart.
wonderful time. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. We appreciate everyone who joined us today. If you haven't yet followed Nicole, follow Nicole. If you haven't followed me, follow me.
Hello, Jen.
And we both have killer newsletters that you don't want to miss, so definitely sign up.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Have a good weekend.
everyone.